Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating, honestly super impactful piece of writing called The Architecture of Greatness. The researchers behind this text actually studied hundreds of top performers across all sorts of different fields, and they found that they all shared one shockingly unglamorous trait. So today we're looking at how monumental success is actually constructed from the ground up based on that specific trait. And, well, spoiler alert for what we're about to uncover here, it's not built by magic, it's not a winning lottery ticket, and it definitely doesn't happen overnight. Instead, as you'll see, we're going to explore how greatness is really built by the daily, deliberate, and often completely invisible choices that we make.
Nobody knew his name. Let's just slow down and think about that for a second. This is the stark, unvarnished reality of the protagonist's starting point in our source text. We're talking about a completely ordinary person working a dead-end job trying to get a massive project off the ground from a cramped little apartment. And honestly, it's the exact starting point for almost everyone who has ever achieved anything of real significance. There's no fanfare, there's no built-in audience cheering you on, there's just a blank slate, a quiet room, and absolute anonymity. In the text, nobody believed in him yet, basically because, well, there was nothing to believe in yet.
Which brings us to the core question of our entire explainer today. This serves as a massive narrative hook in the text. How does one decision change everything? You know, we so often think of success as this massive, sweeping event, right? Like a sudden stroke of luck or a lightning bolt of genius. But the source material argues something radically different. It argues that the true catalyst is just a single, pivotal decision, a choice to step out of the ordinary. But what does that actually look like in everyday practice?
To understand that, we really need to look at the first chapter of this journey, Act I, the starting line.
This is where we see the mundane, repetitive daily grind. We're talking about waking up, seeing the exact same streets, facing the exact same struggles, and wrestling with those exact same echoing doubts inside your own mind day after day. This challenging, really uninspiring environment is exactly where that one critical decision has to be forged. And it brilliantly illustrates the friction right at that starting line. On one hand, you have the external noise. You got people laughing, throwing out that classic dream-killing line, "Be realistic." It's a phrase the world uses all the time to keep people in their comfortable little boxes. But countering that, weighing down the other side of the scale, is an unshakable internal conviction. Deep inside, despite all the laughter, there was a quiet belief that he was meant for something greater. He literally had to constantly weigh the laughter of the crowd against his own internal drive.
That internal conviction leads us directly into the next phase of our text, Act 2, The Invisible Struggle. Making the decision to pursue greatness doesn't instantly teleport you to the finish line. Far from it. In fact, it plunges you into a phase that nobody else sees. The author makes it crystal clear that long before there is any visible public success, there's this unseen crucible of hardship. We're talking failures, sleepless nights, the overwhelming urge to quit. Moments when throwing in the towel just seemed infinitely easier than taking even one more step forward. This is the grind, fueled mostly by cheap coffee and doubt. This is where the initial motivation wears off entirely. But the text emphasizes that experiencing these really intense struggles isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path. Actually, it's simply the mandatory price of admission. It is the exact thing that separates the great from the average.
So the absolutely crucial point is captured right here in this profound realization from the text. Success doesn't belong to the strongest. It belongs to those who refuse to stop. I absolutely love this because it completely reframes the whole concept of achievement. We're so conditioned to assume the strongest, the smartest, or the naturally gifted are the ones who automatically win, right? But the author argues forcefully that endurance consistently outpaces raw strength. The great ones aren't necessarily superheroes. They're simply the ones who refuse to quit when those sleepless nights hit the hardest. Once you survive that invisible struggle by refusing to stop, the energy in our narrative shifts significantly. We enter Act 3, creating the shift. This is where the protagonist moves from merely surviving the daily grind to actively winning. And no, it wasn't a sudden burst of luck or a fairy godmother swooping in. Day after day, he just kept learning and improving in this continuous, almost microscopic daily evolution that finally began to tip the scales. Let's look at the exact mindset pivot that allowed him to break away from the masses. The text points out a really powerful dichotomy here. While others were searching for excuses, reasons why things were too hard, or why the system was rigged, or why they just couldn't succeed, he was relentlessly searching for opportunities. It's the exact same environment, the exact same starting line, but a completely different filter applied to reality. When your brain is wired to look for opportunities instead of excuses, your daily actions inevitably and permanently change.
Because he kept learning and improving day after day, the text shows us that slowly things began to change. Over days of learning, then weeks, small victories actually began to appear. And over months, those small victories compounded into bigger victories. It's like a giant puzzle slowly coming together. The compounding effect of small daily habits is incredibly real. And this progression leads right up to a highly satisfying moment in the text. Those exact same people who laughed and told him to be realistic suddenly changed their tune. Now, they were standing there asking, "How did you do it?"
That specific question, "How did you do it?" brings us to our final section. Act 4, the blueprint for greatness. I want to step out of the narrative for a moment and speak directly to you. Because here, the source text brilliantly transitions from a story of one person into a direct structural deconstruction of success for all of us. And the truth revealed here is incredibly simple, though certainly not easy. No magic, no shortcuts, no perfect moment. We literally have to completely dispel the illusion of overnight success right now. If you are waiting for a perfect moment when you feel 100% ready, or if you're looking for some secret shortcut that bypasses the hard work, you're going to be waiting forever. The text is very authoritative on this. Greatness is not a magic trick. Instead, as the author outlines, greatness is simply the relentless execution of 3 structural pillars. Step 1, discipline. Doing what needs to be done, just like our protagonist waking up for that mundane job while still putting in the hours on his dream. Step 2, consistency. Doing it day after day after day without breaking the chain. And step 3, the courage to continue when nobody is watching. Honestly, that last part is the glue that holds the whole shebang together. When there is no applause, when you're back in that cheap coffee and doubt phase we talked about earlier, do you still have the courage to put the work in?
This leads us to arguably the most powerful takeaway of the entire explainer. Your future isn't created in one day, it's created by the choices you make every day. This isn't just about a character in a story anymore, right? This is about you. The relevance of this text to your own life is absolute. You are currently constructing your own future, brick by brick, choice by choice, on a daily basis. Every single day is an architectural decision for your life.
Which is exactly why the source text leaves us with a final ringing call to action. Number 1, start now. Don't wait for that non-existent perfect moment we talked about earlier. Number 2, stay focused. Keep your mindset locked on finding opportunities rather than settling for excuses. And number 3, inspire others. The author points out that if you stick to this blueprint, one day your story of the invisible struggle will be the one that others look to. Your compounding small victories will become someone else's proof that it actually can be done. Because greatness, as we've learned through this entire explainer, doesn't begin with a grand ceremony or a lucky break. It begins with a single, deliberate decision to step onto the starting line and refuse to stop. So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to carry with you as we close this out. Look at the choices sitting in front of you right now. What decision will you make today?